Welcome to my house. Welcome to the StructureTech podcast, a production of StructureTech Home Inspections. My name is Ruben Saltzman. I'm your host, alongside building science geek Tessa Murray. We help home inspectors up their game through education, and we help homeowners to be better stewards of their houses. We've been keeping it real on this podcast since 2019, and we are also the #1 home inspection podcast in the world, according to my mom. Welcome to my house. Welcome to another episode of the StructureTech podcast. Tessa, as always, great to see you. How you doing today?
Good to see you too. I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I think you heard my dog barking in the background there. And for the first time, I got to tell you, we had 2 microphones picking up my dog barking in the background today. I have got a special guest on the show, for longtime listener, first time guest. I get to welcome my wife, Anna Saltzman, to the show. Anna, say hi to all the listeners.
Hey,
Hi, Anna.
Hi everyone. Excited to be here.
Anna joined the team, a long time ago. She's been doing work on and off for StructureTech since before we were even dating. I remember Anna coming to our office back when we had an office in Golden Valley, and we would put reports together. We would do these huge bound reports where we'd take all these different pamphlets from the state and we would bind them and put them in these huge containers, and then we mail them off and we'd have them all ready to go. And I remember Anna coming in there helping me with this stuff way back in the day. We weren't even dating then. She would come and help me with that stuff. So she's been involved in StructureTech forever, but she is like officially part of the leadership team now. And that's been going on for, how long has it been, Anna?
Since September.
Okay. September. So
September of 2023.
You got it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep. And Anna's role is overseeing the growth department. And really when we think about growth at StructureTech, we're thinking about acquiring new business. It's not necessarily expanding into new territories or anything like that. And I shouldn't say necessarily. It's not doing that. We only have one territory here at StructureTech, and it's the Twin Cities market. But we're always trying to fill the calendars of our home inspectors. If I really had to break it down, what does our growth department do? Their #1 job is to make sure that our inspectors have full calendars, or at least do whatever we can for that. So that's been Anna's focus. Anna, how's it been for you so far?
Well, I guess I started out the job thinking it was going to be one thing, and then shortly realized it really morphed into something kind of different. But it's been a learning experience. It certainly is outside of what I thought it would be. And I've just really enjoyed meeting all the people on the team and kind of learning more about the company that I've been silently a part of for a very long time.
Yeah.
How is it different than what you thought it was going to be, Anna?
So I guess when I was going to come in, I thought it really was going to be, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to talk to realtors and, get to know them and get them to use StructureTech. And then just realizing that in order to really be successful at that, we need to have more interaction with the inspectors. I need to find out what they're willing to do, what they want to do, what they've been doing that doesn't work. And it turned out to be more of an effort of a relationship between the inspectors and the real estate community.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because, you're out there, talking to real estate agents and you're hearing what they're hearing, but unless you're really kind of talking with the home inspectors, there's this disconnect between what we're saying and what we're actually doing. So you're kind of completing that communication loop, I guess.
Yes, and so that's how this topic came about. Did we announce the topic yet?
No, we
it.
haven't.
Are you going to?
What are we talking about today, Anna?
Okay. Yay. So that's how this topic came about. When I started and, we were communicating with other agents throughout the community and just wondering, well, why have we seen you drop off, that kind of stuff. And then I just started hearing more and more, you guys are deal killers.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever StructureTech inspects the house, you guys make a big deal out of everything. And I have a fear that the house will not go through, the sale will fall apart because you guys are deal killers. And so it just kind of prompted us to really look into that kind of pull some data, look at the houses that don't close. Is it a certain inspector? Is it a certain location of houses? Is it a certain price point? How can we dial in on this data and figure out how we can prevent this deal killer mentality from perpetuating?
Yeah.
And here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, that's something that StructureTech's been kind of, I guess, like aware of and trying to, improve that reputation in the industry for years now. At least when I was working at StructureTech, that was always something we were trying to kind of correct. But we never did any like digging into the data or any research to kind of see if there was any patterns or anything. So I'm really kind of curious to hear what you found.
Well, and before we get there though, Tess, I got to share how not new of a thing this is, because I remember back when all I was doing was answering the phones and scheduling home inspections for StructureTech starting back in 97. I heard it back then too. I mean, people would say, "Oh, I want your dad to do the inspection. I don't want Dwayne because Dwayne is a deal killer. You should see some of the faces he makes, or this, that, and the other." And it's like, and people say that about my dad too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know people said that about me.
Who was inspecting back in 1997? Who was the StructureTech team back then?
It was just my dad and Dwayne. That was it. It was those two. Yep.
Okay.
So,
and then we maintained that hardcore reputation all through the 2000s until today, it sounds like.
We have not lost it.
Still thriving today.
Yep.
Still thriving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still known as the deal killers. But, I hate that term because, and you know what, I got to share this. I actually had one agent tell me I was doing an inspection, and I remember him saying, well, yeah, a lot of people say that you guys just tear the houses up and you say the worst stuff you can possibly to try to make the deal not go through so you can get more business. And then you can get a second or third inspection out of the client. And it's like, okay. I tried my best to keep a poker face, just raise my eyebrows a little. Oh, okay. But I'm just thinking to myself, that's the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Yeah. That would be such a horrible business practice, such a horrible business model, so unethical. I mean, I was so offended hearing it because I mean, that would just be wrong.
Well, there's this fine line. I think it's like, we want to have integrity. We want to offer a thorough, good inspection. Our client is the buyer typically, and so we want to provide them with accurate information, and that's what we do. But at the same time, like also the real estate agents are our clients. They're the ones bringing us repeat business, and so we don't want to make them upset either. We want to make them happy, but ethically, we can't pander to them and hold information back to try and keep them happy, make them happy. So I think it's that fine line. Like we found that working with ethical real estate agents, they don't have any problem with us talking to their clients about the issues we find. They encourage that actually. And then there's always going to be that handful of real estate agents that don't want all of the problems and issues revealed at the home inspection because they're not comfortable with handling those things or explaining them to the client, and it makes their job more challenging. So there, I see both perspectives, but I think at StructureTech, we've always tried to kind of walk that line of like, how do we, work with the real estate agent, but also do our job and serve, the home buyer well too.
Yes. And I got to say, over the years, I mean, I know there's got to be some agents listening to this who are just dying to jump in with this comment, and I'll say it for them. I heard this so many times. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes.
And I mean, huge amen to that. We embrace that. The good agents, they want you to present all of the exact right information. It's not like they're asking you to withhold information, but what they want is don't scare the hell out of people. I mean, don't incite fear.
Yes.
And make sure when you're doing your inspections, make sure you're letting your clients know that whatever it is you find, there's something that could fix this. Anything you find, it can always be fixed. So important. And when you look at the top agents, the people who refer us a lot, the people who have a lot of transactions every year, their deals never fall apart. And I mean, I don't mean 100% never. Every once in a while, there is something found, and then the agent will try to talk their client out of buying the house because they feel like it's not the right house for them. But I mean, I use the term loosely, but those deals never fall apart. And it's all about the agents prepping people and also about having a knowledgeable agent who can spot a lot of the low-hanging fruit that the home inspector would come up with just on a showing and saying, oh, look, this house has a Federal Pacific panel. I know those are bad panels. I've sat through their CE classes. We know that. And I looked at the chimney. It's like the agents who take the time to look at the chimney, they see it's going to need to be rebuilt. It's like they can prep their clients for all of this stuff.
They do say that, like, you may end up seeing this in the report. And I mean, even when we were looking at houses too, our agent, tongue in cheek was like, oh, that's going to end up on your report from StructureTech. It's just, he even knew, but he wasn't, was not the inspector, but he would tell us, like, hey, did you see that? Because some of the houses I did not have Ruben with me when we were looking at.
Wow.
And it was kind of nice that he knew enough. He had been enough CEs. He kind of, this is what you might end up on the report.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, we've been working on this a little bit, is just kind of dialing in some of these numbers. And Anna, I know you've been digging into this a lot, trying to figure out which of these houses do end up going to close and which of them don't, how many don't. And I before the show, we talked a little bit about national numbers, and I don't have any fantastic sources for how many times a house doesn't go through based on the home inspection. I've got a somewhat not credible source. There was a newspaper article that I had shared on the website on a blog post I wrote many years ago. And in that, they had said that the national average is approximately 1 out of 20 houses, 5%. The deal is going to fall apart for whatever reason. We don't know why. We don't know if it was a home inspection. Maybe it was a lending issue. Maybe the buyers got cold feet. We don't know why the deal didn't go through, but about 5% was quoted as the national average for homes not going to closing.
Yeah, that's less than I thought it was going to. I thought that's less than I thought it was going to be. It seems pretty low.
Yeah, but so there's the national average. Anna, what do you have to share?
Yes.
I can't wait. Drum roll for this one.
Are at around 2%.
Holy cow.
Our deal's not going to. And so then we went back. We looked at the houses. There was no pinpointing a specific inspector. There was no pinpointing a specific location. Like there wasn't the majority in St. Paul or the majority somewhere else. It was really all across the board. And it really was the houses that were less than $600,000. Unfortunately, there was one particular client that 3 of those were their house. And so that was an uncomfortable situation where we kind of had to talk a little bit more like, we don't want to keep taking your money. What are we missing?
Can you go back up? Tell the whole story, Anna, because I think this is a great story. I don't want to gloss over this I want to talk about this because I think this really raises some ethical issues over what a home inspection company should do about this. Because as a leadership team, we deliberated over this for I don't know, do we spend like a half hour, an hour talking about this one client and how to address this? I mean, share the story.
Okay. This particular client had multiple inspections even previous to when we started tracking. We had a discussion with her agent, like, what are we missing? Can we prep you? And the agent said, she's just really picky. I said, okay, all right, we can work with that. We communicated with the inspectors before they would go out. This is what's happening. This person has multiple inspections. So then we kind of put a little flag in her account. And I said, the next time she goes to schedule an inspection, let me know. So I got the email. So I ended up calling the buyer to say, well, we've got this agent listed. She said, oh yeah, she's not my agent anymore. Okay, I'm not going to touch that. Who's your agent? And then from there, I just said, let's have a conversation. Let's kind of talk about what do we need to do to help you? So it was a really long, but very good discussion. I kind of said, this is going to have to be the last inspection we do for you. We will do walkthroughs for you if that's what you want, because the previous agent said, I've shown this client over 200 homes.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Oh.
Right. And But the agent was not upset with us, which is quite surprising. I'm sure the seller's agents were. They were probably annoyed because when we went back and we looked at the reports, these houses were very livable.
Well, and I got to jump in. I heard that we got nasty feedback, like nasty phone calls from 2 of those sellers agents from this client saying, what the hell are you guys doing? This is a very clean house. I know this house. It's well maintained. And you scared the crap out of the buyer. You killed the deal. And I'm telling everybody in my office, don't call StructureTech. I'm like, I'm going to blackball you from our listings. You can't inspect any more. I mean, this does our company a ton of damage when we inspect a good property and then the buyers back out. I'm bringing this up because it is the complete opposite of what I had said this agent accused us of, trying to kill deals so that we get more business. No, quite the contrary. We don't want to kill deals. That's not what we're after. But sorry, go on, Anna.
No, and that actually brings up another point I had mentioned to the buyer, for this particular one. Would you mind, regardless of if you buy the house or not, would you mind if we give our report to the seller's agent? Because the previous homes had been good. I mean, I would have bought them. They were very livable. And she wasn't really on board with that. And I get it. I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, well, hey, you are perpetuating this for us. And I talked to the new agent that she was using. I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but StructureTech has a reputation of being deal killers. And we have worked with your client previously. And she's kind of passed on some of the houses. And when we looked at the reports, we didn't really see anything wrong with the house. So I talked to her. I said, this is going to be kind of the last inspection we do for you, but we are willing to do walkthrough inspections, considering she looked at numerous properties. That's going to be the best option for you.
Did that agent then run from that client?
No, I don't think so. But she was like, oh, I've not heard that about StructureTech. And there's a part of me that wanted to say, oh, are you new? Because I've been hearing about it
Who's working with that
a long time.
Maybe she is, or they are.
The previous agent was super gracious and was like, well, I hope she finds a house that she likes.
Yeah.
I hope she finds one that works, and I'll continue to use you. Yeah. And so it ended up being okay. But yeah, the seller's agents, what can we say? I wanted to say we didn't find really anything wrong.
What's so interesting, Anna? I think when I was working at StructureTech, we had that reputation and we didn't have any data to back up, a rebuttal to that. And now that you've done the research, it's interesting to know that okay, there is no pattern about it, the deals that fall through. There's only 2% apparently, which is lower than the national average. Okay. So we know that it's not, a big issue here at the company. And it's not, corresponding to one particular home inspector. And we know it's not a certain location. There's all these different variables. It's not it's maybe a price point that's a lower price point where houses do have bigger issues. And it's not really tied to any specific real estate agent that you've seen. But it's interesting to see that, okay, well, sometimes it's the buyer themselves that they won't be happy no matter what house they're looking at. Because I've run into that in the past too, of doing inspections for someone who has looked at hundreds of houses and done several inspections, and it seems like, it doesn't matter what they're looking at. They just won't be happy.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, there's a couple of inspections too that we've heard about that have gone through. And one of them I actually talked to the agent about, and he said that his clients were going to get a divorce, and that's why they backed out. And I said, why did you even get a home inspection? Or why did you use us when you could have found someone for a fraction of the price to just whip together a report so you could get out of your purchase agreement? And he's like, well, just in case they didn't get divorced. But he knew they were getting a divorce, and they had put this purchase agreement. I would bet that they were getting a divorce because of the home buying process. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit like, oh, come on, man. Like,
And I could say
you don't use us.
I have personally had that myself too, where I've started going through the inspection with the buyers, and they said, well, I'm just going to be in the living room. I really don't care that much what you find, because I've kind of changed my mind. I don't really want the house anymore. So this is just a formality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, jaw on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, no matter what I find, you're not going to buy the house. And the listing agent is going to be super pissed.
Mad at you.
We're gonna be the bad guys. So we gotta take the fall for this, and we can't tell them anything.
Is there any more data that you want to talk about, Anna? That's a lot of data, I think. Like, and it's really telling, actually. It paints a pretty interesting picture, I think, that there's no correspondence between the inspector or the location, or I thought it was going to be tied to, honestly, certain real estate agents, like the inexperienced ones have people that get surprised at the inspection, and back out. But it's not showing that either.
Yeah. And you know what? When we looked at the difference between the buyer's agent and the listing agent, I mean, some of the listing agents for these houses do like to use us. There really wasn't a distinction. There was that distinction of the price point of the house being less than $600,000. We didn't know if we should try to look into how long the house has been on the market, like how many other offers had been on this particular property. That was just kind of a rabbit hole that we didn't want to go down, but I mean, I think it's worth looking at too.
Yeah.
But, then when you have in all of these, like, well, they weren't going to buy the house anyway, those kinds of things. It's like, I mean, how do we get around that? We are kind of working as a company, like I said, to bring people in, to talk about communication, to have us seen more personable and not just kind of stuffy inspectors.
Yeah. And something else, I've got this theory, and I think that the size of the company may have something to do with it, because if you take a one-man shop and then you ask a room full of 100 agents and you say, all right, how many of you have had Kevin's home inspection company kill one of your deals in the last year? You're not going to have one hand go up. But then you say, it's small numbers. But then you say, all right, how many of you had StructureTech kill a deal? And you may have 5 hands go up. Just because of the sheer numbers.
Yes.
The math. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you back up just a little bit, let's talk about all that it takes to get to the point of the home inspection. You talk about all of the emails that you got, all of, that you have to address with your agent when you're looking at houses, all of the emails that you have to address with the lender, all of the paperwork, all of the time, you have so much weighing on this one inspection. And it's like the home inspector seems to be the goalie, and you forget that it went through the forward, it went through the defense, it went through all these, and all of a sudden the goalie misses the shot and they're to blame. Yeah. I kind of went back and looked at some of the communications that I had when we were selling our first house in 2010. We had, not including the emails for showing, just the emails that I needed to be addressed by our agent. There was 82.
Oh my gosh.
It only ended up being more with each additional house.
I was just going to say, like, the takeaway from me is that it's not necessarily that we are deal killers because there's a higher volume. I shouldn't say we. I don't work at StructureTech technically anymore. It's just a habit. Okay?
You're still we, Tessa.
I got to switch my brain. But
even though I'm wearing your old shirt.
It went to good use. I guess, like, the takeaway is, like, StructureTech is no bigger deal killer than any other home inspection company. We haven't done data on other people, but, like, from the national average, there's not anything that's very telling. It's like, okay, there are some deals that fall through, but they're not necessarily because of a certain inspector or how they're communicating, or because of a certain agent or how they're communicating, or a location in the city that has, tough houses. It's more than that. And so that's kind of, I think that's, reaffirming to the company. And also it's like, okay,
sure.
What can we do then? How can we still improve?
I was in a room with, I think, probably 14 or 15 at a conference with about 14 or 15 other big home inspection companies throughout the United States. And they at least had 15 employees each. And I had said, we were talking about business. And I said, gosh, one of the things that we can't seem to shake is this deal killer mentality. All of them said the same thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're called that too. Yeah, we're called that too. And it's just because of the volume.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, maybe. And then when I looked into it, I was like, they've already done the research. It really is just kind of because of the volume. Yeah. And you know what? It's, to be fair, it's not going to stop us from trying to do better. I mean, we are still getting feedback on things that we can work to improve on. And that's great. We love the feedback because it is typically something we can work with. You know, sometimes people say things and that's just because they're upset the house didn't go through, and I totally get that. But
most of them are reasonable.
Sometimes we can't change. Yeah, but you know, smile when you talk to my client. Okay, sure. Yep, I'll pass that along. We can do that. That's something we can work on.
And something I've heard over and over through the years is give people the next step. If you say that you've got potential water intrusion in the wall, don't just leave it at that and say you might have a big problem. Tell people what to do next. Give them the next step and say, have the wall covering removed in this area or have intrusive moisture testing done to determine if this is a problem, and then have it further adjusted at that point. I mean, give people what the next step is. Don't just say, hey, I think it might be a problem, and then leave it up to the agent to figure out. Give them names of people who can help them. Give everybody involved the next step. That's really what they want. Just don't be dropping a bomb in somebody's lap and let them figure out how to pick up the pieces. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's like, don't tell them that, hey, this panel is one that could start on fire and it could just burn your house down and then walk out. It's like, no. Tell them they need to hire an electrician, have the panel replaced, and you're done.
And it's not going to be that big of a deal. It's going to take them a day to swap it out. It'll cost $2,000 and it's not the end of the world.
I think when I was involved with the training process, like that was a big part of the training, was just helping. I mean, you know, learning the technical side of inspecting. Yes, that is extremely important. And you need that, you know, to build a strong foundation as a good inspector. But I think the biggest, most challenging part of being a home inspector is learning how to do exactly what you said, Ruben. It's being able to give clients context, being able to read your client and know how much context they need, you know, and then adjusting for that. And and just, I mean, you can put some people at ease with giving them more information, and you can also make some people more stressed if you give them more information. So you have to kind of figure out, what your client is looking for, what they need, and how much to share. And that's a tough job, but I think the inspectors at StructureTech do a really good job at that. And
one of the things that we've added on to try to help that is we do some pre-inspection communication. Yeah. And, you know, even sometimes just talking to people, you can get a good idea, you know, oh, you're an engineer. You don't say. Like, you can tell when you talk to some of them. Like, you get that right away. And then at that point, you know they're going to be at the entire inspection. Yeah. So that is another way where we do try to, get to know our clients a little bit better and make sure that we are providing the best service possible.
Excellent. Well, I think we hit on all the high points that we were trying to cover today. Anna, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to jump on the podcast. Great to have you on the show for the first time. We'll have to do this again. And
this was
Tessa,
fun. Thanks for coming on, Anna. Thanks for doing all the research too. That is fascinating information, I think.
You know, I got to admit, I was a little disappointed because it's just, there's nothing really juicy here. Like, I really wanted to get on the podcast and be like, I've got it, nail on the head. Like, this is exactly what it is. And then we're going to change it. And it was kind of like, we went through a couple months and I'm like, let's do a couple more. Like, this is not enough. And so hopefully the next time I'm on, I will have something.
So we can just say basically, it's not me, it's you.
Well, we're not going to do any better than that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're breaking up with you. It's not us, it's you.
Yeah.
It's you. It's always been you.
We're done.
And whoever trained you in.
Well, I know we brought up some controversial topics. I know that if I were listening, I'd probably be dying to chime in with a handful of other things, because there's so much involved in this. We could talk about this for hours, and you get a room full of home inspectors, you are going to get as many opinions as you have heads. So many different opinions on how to address all this.
Well, for
so
sure.
if you have any thoughts, feel free to email us, send us your blasts. We appreciate it, or any advice, whatever it is. Our email is podcast@structuretech.com.
And then we'll have a round 2.
We'll have maybe so.
We'll have a follow-up
Yes.
where we can read all of our lover emails and hater emails.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks.
All right. Well, thanks again. Good to see you, Tess. Anna,
Thank you.
Good to see you too.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Later.
Bye.